I've got a dirty secret. Actually, it's not that dirty, it's really tame. I like vans. I don't know why I like vans. When I was a kid, we had a Mitsubishi L300 Express and it was the most diabolically uncomfortable car on the road, as well as incredibly dangerous. But here we are. I like vans and I like caddies. This is Volkswagen's 5th generation Caddy. It's all new for 2022, built from the ground up on Volkswagen's all-conquering MQB platform. You can get it in short wheelbase, long wheelbase, petrol, diesel, cargo, crew van, life. There's heaps to get through. Let's get cracking. Now, before we do get going, let me gently and subtly remind you to hit the subscribe button. And if you also hit the bell button, you get a little notification telling you that we've got a brand new video there up on the channel. During this video, we're going to talk about all the stuff we normally talk about. We're going to tell you how much it costs. We're going to talk about the interior. There's a lot to talk about in this interior. Talk about the engine, the way it drives, warranty, servicing, the whole bit. We're going to chop it up into chapter markers and they're going to be down there in the little scrubby bar thing. And if I miss anything in this review, it'll be in my written review, which is linked on the website down below. Right, I think I've told you all the things you need to know. Let's get going.
The Caddy is the dominant force in the admittedly small city van segment here in Australia. Volkswagen basically owns that segment, with 70 or 80% of market share, solidly flogging all comers from European rivals such as Renault, Citroën and Peugeot. The 5th generation Caddy comes to us rolling on MQB, VW's famously adaptable and dependable front-wheel drive platform. At the moment, it's only available with a 2-litre diesel engine and comes in Caddy Cargo with a short or long wheelbase, a 5-seater Caddy crew van, and 2 people mover versions. Petrol versions will start filtering through soon.
The 7-seater people mover version of the Caddy is just called Caddy. That's all it's called. And it comes in 2 flavours, Caddy and Caddy Life. This is the Caddy Life, and it's got a few options on it, including this colour, copper bronze. Now, I didn't think people would like this, but people do. It's really odd. And it's been a real head turner, this car. Lots of people rubbernecking. These headlights, they're the LEDs. They're optional, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. I love this bar that runs all the way across here and into the lights. That's really cool. I like that. I'm not quite sure about the bumper. It looks a bit underdone, but I guess that's what facelifts are for. Coming down the side here, we've got 17-inch alloys. The base car has Steelies with very spangly wheel covers. Big doors. I love these big doors. I mean, obviously they're big because it's so high, but yeah, they open out nice and wide. Really easy to get into. Both sides of the car have these sliding doors. They're not electric, but you can get optional electrical latching ones, so you can just do a soft close. That's quite good, easy entry. See? Now, these windows, they don't open. So if this is a family car, you've really got to think about that, because kids and dogs make smells and you cannot open the window. So that's an important thing. When we get around the back here, it's such a modern looking car. I really like this. You've got these stacked, almost full height headlights. I think these look fantastic, and you can get them in LED versions as well. And when you stand back, it looks a lot like the Transporter back here. That's another van I quite like. Here on the people mover versions, you can only get the lift back, whereas on the Caddy Cargo, you can get those wing doors. Bit of a cover here, big boot. You know, lots of easy access on this car. It's really all about carrying stuff and people.
The Caddy starts off at $45,490 before on roads, and the Life adds $4,500 to $49,990. By the time it's got it on the road, it'll be in the mid-50s. The Caddy has 17-inch Steelies with spangly wheel covers, cruise control, powered mirrors and windows, halogen headlights, remote central locking, cloth interior, carpet flooring, leather steering wheel, 7 seats, air conditioning and a full-size spare. The composition media system means an 8-inch screen, no shortcut buttons and wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The Caddy Life swaps the wheels for alloys, has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, digital dashboard, heat insulating front side windows, dual zone climate control, front parking sensors and adaptive cruise control.
Let's start with these seats. VW makes a big deal about them, and they should, because these are really comfortable seats. They're an upgrade from the cargo version. Really, really comfortable. They don't look like much, but they've got lots of adjustment, including this under thigh section here. They raise, lower, back forward, of course, but yeah, just really comfortable, and there's a lot of range, so they're very nice to spend a lot of time in, and I guess given this is a people mover, you might be spending a lot of time in it. There's a lot of Golf in here, which makes sense given it's based on the Golf. Here I've got the 10.25-inch screen. That is optional. There is also an 8-inch screen that comes as standard in the Caddy and the Caddy Life. It's a really nice screen, really big, and you get wireless CarPlay and Android Auto when you go for the upgrade. Now the wireless CarPlay, I've got an Apple phone, it works really, really well, very reliable, just picks up the phone and away you go. Now, one of the problems with this is that pretty much everything is crammed into the screen, and some of the functions use like sliders and things, and on a screen that I think that's bad and it's a bit annoying. But at least here with the 10.25-inch screen, you get volume and climate control shortcut buttons, as well as a few shortcut buttons down here. Leather steering wheel, very nice. Plenty of controls on here for things like cruise control, stereo, that kind of thing. Here in the Life, you also get the digital dashboard. Now it's really good, really clear, very configurable, and shows you a ton of information. However, I would prefer LED headlights. On this car, they're optional, and the standard halogens, while I haven't used them, no, but I would prefer LED as standard on a car of this kind of cost. Digital dashboard, it's just a nice to have, so yeah, maybe swap it around. I don't know, anyway. But the real deal in this car is the storage. There is so much of it. Let's start with this here on top of the dash. It's like someone has opened a zipper and it's just split the dash open. You've got all this space here. I can put my script, which I'm following very closely, here in the dash, but of course you can put an iPad, you can put a clipboard, that kind of thing. You've got a tray here and here. The stubby little gear shifter, that saves all that space. Now for some reason this has a smoker's pack in it, including a cigarette lighter, which I'm not really sure about in a 7-seater, but Sir Sherman, so crazy. 2 cup holders, another little slot here, armrest with another bin under here, huge door pockets. If I didn't have this huge sunroof, up here above my head would be a gallery storage unit, which is really, really cool. So you just pop things in up here, you know, sunglasses cases, some industries might like a baseball bat, something like that. But yeah, it stretches all the way across the car, and that seems really cool to me. And again, it's probably something I'd have instead of the optional sunroof. Let's have a look in the middle row. Here in the back, well, the middle row anyway, tons of room. I forgot my comedy villain top hat here, but it would be just fine here, even with the sunroof. With the normal roof, there's even more headroom. It's massively high back here. Leg room, knee room, all good. I mean, you know, I'm sitting behind where I sit and I've still got plenty of room. It's not a limo, but there's tons of room. Rear air vents, very important. I mean, if you've got 7 people in here, you want to be pushing as much air as possible. Plus you've got 2 USB-C chargers. No cup holders because here in the middle seat there's no armrest, but the day is saved. Look at these airline style tray tables. I mean, they're not great, but they'll do the job. They've got the cup holders in them, but they're just a hole, so you can't put a can in because it either won't fit if it's a normal size can, or if it's a Red Bull size can, it goes straight through. So not the most elegant of solutions to the problem, but at least they've had a go. Now, the funny thing about these is kids absolutely love them. A friend of mine was looking at a Tiguan with his 11-year-old son, and when his son saw these, he said it was a shut up and take my money moment. From the son, not him obviously, but yeah, so kids really love them. There's also a slot here for propping up a tablet or a phone or whatever, so that'll shut them up. I mean, keep them quiet. I mean, entertain them, that's what I mean. You could get 3 across here without too much trouble, although the transmission tunnel is probably a little high because you'd be up like that, but it's comfortable enough. Materials back here, not as great as the front. It's a bit scratchy and a bit less thoughtful, I guess. And you know, that moves around quite a bit. But all in all, it's a pretty comfortable middle row. And unlike most Volkswagens, it doesn't slide backwards and forwards. So you are kind of fixed in place. But apart from that, like, this is a genuine people mover. It's not just a van with some seats in it. And that's, I think, the big point to make about this. Oh, I almost forgot. Little pockets here for your phone. That's really good. So again, this car is all about the storage. It's really nice. So let's have a look at the third row. Now, to get in the back, 2-step process, but it's actually quite easy. Now, we've already put this down so you can see everything, so don't panic. So first you pull the grey tape, that tips the seat back forward. Then you pull the red tape, tips the whole seat forward, giving you tons and tons of space to get in and sit here in the back. Easy pull down, pull that into place, and you're in. Now, I'm not going to pretend it's the most comfortable place in the world, but it's more comfortable than many 7-seat SUVs. I can get my feet under the seats in front. I've got just enough knee room where I've actually got clearance. I've even got a small bottle holder, a little tray and a cup holder, and even a set of speakers so I can hear what's on the stereo. So again, these aren't the most comfortable seats. They're quite thin, but they're well padded. This thing actually pops up so you've got a proper headrest. And what the main thing about this is, because you've got space behind you, you don't feel like you're the crumple zone. I know that's a little bit dark, but some of these 7-seaters, you are hard up against the rear window, plenty of space between you and the tailgate, so in an accident, you're not going to be the one that gets squished. And also very well worth noting, and I'm going to cover this in the safety section, the curtain airbags run all the way to the back here, which you don't necessarily get in something like a Kia Sorento or a Hyundai Santa Fe.
With all the seats in place, you start with an impressive 446 litres behind the lifting tailgate. Remove the third row and you've got yourself 1,720 litres, which is a staggering amount of space. Get rid of the 60-40 split fold middle row and you have an oil tanker-like 3,105 litres of space. Obviously, that depends on what oil tanker you like. Volkswagen also offers a bunch of cargo bay liners and nets and fixings to make the most of the huge volume. Total payload is 699 kilos for the petrol and 710 kilos for the diesel, and you can tow 750 kilos unbraked and 1,500 kilos braked. All of the rear seats have top tether anchors and only the middle seat in the middle row misses out on ISOFIX. Despite being based on a van, the Caddy is packed with safety features. It's got all the usual airbags, plus a centre airbag in the front to prevent head clashes in a side impact. Unlike some 7-seat SUVs, the curtains go all the way to the third row too. On top of that, you have city autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection, lane change assistance, blind spot monitoring and junction assist. There's no ANCAP or Euro ANCAP rating yet.
Volkswagen is offering 2 engines across the Caddy range, the turbo petrol and this, the turbo diesel. It's 2 litres, 90 kilowatts, 320 newton metres of torque. That's a lot of torque. It's also Euro 6 compliant, which means it's very clean, but to get to that it has an AdBlue tank. You keep that topped up, it mixes with the exhaust and the fuel and whatever else to clean up the nitrous oxide emissions. That's a particular problem with diesel, but it's quite clean even by Australia's low standards. The turbo petrol is 84 kilowatts, 200 newton metres. I reckon that's going to struggle in this car, but I haven't driven it yet, so I can't really tell you. There is also a 4-wheel drive version, but we don't get it in Australia, so if you want it, harass your dealer.
Volkswagen offers a 5-year warranty with unlimited kilometres and 12 months roadside assist. You can buy a 3-year 45,000k service pack for $1,300 or a 5-year 75,000k pack for $2,100. The first one saves you up to $265 and the second $669 compared to pay-as-you-go service. You need to return to the dealer every 12 months or 15,000 kilometres, and if you do, you get another 12 months of roadside assist.
Right, so we're going to start with some nerdy stuff. This brand new, from the ground up Caddy is based on Volkswagen's MQB platform. Now, MQB is a long compound German word that I'm not even going to attempt, but basically pretty much any front wheel drive car in the Volkswagen group sits on MQB. Now why is that a big deal? Because it's really good. Any MQB car that you may have driven is excellent, and you may have driven one of those if you're driving an Audi, or if you're driving a Skoda, or if somehow you're driving a Seat. That's on MQB, and it's very well regarded because pretty much any car that comes out on it is really good. And it turns out the Caddy is really good. It just doesn't feel like a van. And I think that is a really big achievement because it is a van. There is a lot of real estate behind you in this long wheelbase version. It's a lot of car, but it honestly just feels like a big tall hatchback, which I guess is what it also is. But the steering is really nice, there's enough feel in it, which is not something you talk about often in a van. It's accurate, it's not too slow. but it's light enough around town that it's not going to be a chore, because obviously these cars are set up for business use. These are the kinds of cars that are going to spend a lot of time on the road. So I can imagine possibly an Uber driver buying one of these, or someone who likes doing airport runs, that kind of thing, taking people backwards and forwards to the airport, because it's got this luggage space for it as well as the passenger space. The 90 kilowatt, 320 newton meter diesel is very smooth. It's not super quiet in this installation, because I guess there's some noise deadening that you won't find in, say, a Golf or an Audi Q3, but it's very comfortable to drive with. It's very smooth. All that torque makes it really, really easy. Like, you have very little turbo lag. It just gets the job done. And of course, as you load up, having all that torque means that you're not being held up or slowed down or whatever. So it's very nice. It's not too wide as a van because, again, it's very hatchbacky. So it will slip down narrow streets that are parked out. But what is really amazing about this car is the ride. So the rear end is a rigid axle with a panhard rod. Now that to me sounds very 1960s. I know it isn't, but it just sounds it. And it's set up that way so that there's a nice low flat floor, which is a really, it's really important for the kinds of things that people do with this in van configuration. And I was expecting on speed humps for it to really bounce around a lot, but it doesn't. You just glide over speed bumps. And often for those third row passengers in almost any car that has a third row, it's not always the most comfortable place to be, but in this car it's all right. Like, it's amazing. I mean, no, it's not like an air suspended Q7 smooth, but my goodness, it's really close. And so when you add all of that up, you realize that this is a really friendly car to live with. So if you don't want that big Kia Carnival, Hyundai Staria kind of car, or you don't want an SUV for whatever reason, and apparently there are reasons not to want an SUV, this is quite a good people mover and quite a good family car. Yes, some of the plastics might be scratchy, but they'll actually be quite hardy and go on forever. And it's quiet in here. The road noise isn't too bad. Again, with a van, it's not something that engineers worry about, having a super quiet cabin. But here in this van, it's quite reasonable. You fire up the stereo and you won't notice much. As you build speed, you get a little bit of wind noise because, it's not exactly the most aerodynamic thing in the world, but I'm so impressed with this. And I reckon an all-wheel drive version, which is available overseas, would be really, really nice. There is the downside, though, that you are paying quite a lot of money for this. It is a more than $50,000 van, and you can't get away from that. However, the point of buying a car like this is not whether it's a $50,000 van or not, it's whether it does what you want it to do. And for business people who don't necessarily want or can afford or need to own two cars, you've got a lot of space here if you've got a business that requires that kind of space. And then on the weekend you can fill it with seats and take, the kids to netball or soccer or cricket or lacrosse or whatever it is kids play on the weekend. It's such a versatile car and just so unexpectedly comfortable and good. Yeah, I reckon that's almost worth it, actually. The Volkswagen Caddy 5 is a true multi-purpose car. It can be a 7-seater, it can be a 5-seat wagon, it can be a 2-seat van. No matter how many seats you've got in it, there's tons of space for your stuff. It's pretty amazing. I cannot think of a car this versatile and this easy to configure. Most of them are 7-seat SUVs, and getting seats out of those, if you can even get them out, is a nightmare. It is pretty pricey though, and at this price level, I would expect things like standard LED headlights and the bigger screen. But having said all of that, this is kind of like the multi-talented Lady Gaga. Expensive, but it can do so many things. It's that good. I made an almost contemporary pop culture reference. Move around a bit in there. Now again, not the most amazing thing, and my microphone's come off. Clean, even,